I think that the problem is crony capitalism. I think it's the fact that corporations do buy special favors, that there is favoritism in the system, and that by adopting the fair tax, you actually bleed all of that out. That I don't think Republicans understand the difference between free market and crony capitalism, and so often the criticism of free markets actually is a criticism of crony capitalism. And that's what we've grown in this country.
How are you going to get Congress to work with you to achieve your goal of
Okay, so how does a libertarian president get Congress to go along with this? Look, I think a libertarian president could challenge Democrats to be good at what they're supposed to be good at. Civil liberties. So how about getting out of Afghanistan? How about not bombing Iran? How about bringing about marriage equality? How about ending the drug wars? These things that Democrats should be good about, but they're not good at it at all. And then we can learn from And then how about challenging Republicans on what they're supposed to be good at, which is dollars and cents, and they're not good at that at all. We're going to balance the budget in 28 years, and it's incumbent upon growth. You know, this is burying your head under the sand. So challenging Republicans, challenging Democrats, the notion that I am more liberal than Obama on many issues, I am much more conservative than Romney on many, many issues. To me, speaking with a broad brushstroke, the majority of Americans are fiscally responsible and socially accepting. I'm in that category. I think the most of Americans are in that category, and we are not being represented at all by either of the parties when it comes to who we all are. Yes?
I came here today thinking that my choice was going to be none of the above. But dude, you won me over.
You have made my day.
Barack Obama was elected president, a group of Republicans got together with Frank Luntz, including Senator Mitch McConnell, who said that our first priority is to make Obama a one-term president. How are you going to work with those kind of people?
Well, as governor of New Mexico, I was constantly asked how I was going to work with the legislature. Well, I have no intention of working with a legislature that's not going to promote everything it is here that I'm talking about. And so I really enjoyed the job as governor of New Mexico. What we want to elect is a leader that's going to simply get up every day and pound away at these issues. Take the debates and the discussion to the American people. Using George Bush as an example. Look, I favor privatizing Social Security or parts of it, but there's a real compelling argument that goes along with that. George Bush starts to talk about it. I would think that water would get boiling on that issue. It doesn't even get to tepid, and he's out of it. And Barack Obama, same thing. Why doesn't he wake up every single morning and start pounding away at the things that we elected him to do? It was wonderful. The things he said was wonderful. There was this hope and this change, and none of it has happened.
Hey Gary, I want to just say thanks for coming. My name's Tony Hernandez, and I'm running for the U.S. Congress in this district. I won the Republican primary, and I want to say if you are elected, I would happily and gladly work for the libertarian cause on your ticket. So,
thank you. Thank you.
The other thing I just want to point out is here in Minnesota, the Republican Party is definitely changing from within. We have a whole bunch of candidates up there. And my question for you is, we do have this two-party system that is dominant. Is there still hope working within the Republican Party, in your opinion?
I don't think there is, in my opinion. For all of the head banging that I had, banging my head up against the wall, I just have a bunch of knots in my head. Mm-hmm. So, libertarian, this is coming out of the closet for me. I think that let's not forget that all of the faces on Mount Rushmore were third-party candidates at one time.
Hey Gary, Sean Wright from We Are Change asked you in Tampa about if Dr. Paul got the ticket. You said you would support him, absolutely, but he didn't get the nomination. When are we going to be expecting Dr. Paul to endorse you for president?
Yeah, right. Well, first of all, I supported Dr. Paul. Dr. Paul asked for my endorsement in 2008. I readily gave that endorsement. I was asked in the second debate which candidate I would choose as a vice president. That was a no-brainer. That's Dr. Paul. When I left the Republican primary, I asked everyone that was going to vote for me to vote for Dr. Paul. I am not asking Dr. Paul for his endorsement. I don't expect his endorsement. I think he's between a rock and a hard place because his son is a U.S. Senator, and I think he really is treading lightly on keeping him in that position.
Do you agree with Ron Paul's views on sound money and would you support a full audit of the Federal Reserve?
I would support a full audit of the Federal Reserve. I would sign legislation that would repeal legal tender laws, allowing for legislation that would create competing currencies, which would have a basis in sound money. And by the way, very, very complex, but that's why you would have competing currencies. And just for a second, you're going to base the currency on a commodity that is going to be market-based. So when you go to the gas pump, if it's, and this is the reason for competing currencies, but if you're going to go to the gas pump and your currency is based on gold, and gold is fluctuating in a marketplace as you're buying your gas, you can just see how complex this is.
What about an executive order to legalize hemp?
An executive order to legalize hemp. I have said that I would issue executive orders with regard to descheduling marijuana as a Class 1 narcotic. I would not schedule it as a narcotic at all. And then I would embark on this process of pardons for up to 20 million Americans who have been convicted, felony convictions. You're asking me if I can issue an executive order regarding hemp? I don't think I can. If I can, I will. I will. I mean, I make that pledge to you.
There's more to the hemp plant than just marijuana.
No, I absolutely understand that. Legalizing marijuana, which has always been my position, hemp becomes a no-brainer. There's also those that are in prison right now. There's also the process of commutation of sentences for the individuals that are behind bars that are there on victimless, nonviolent crime. And I view selling drugs as victimless because the seller is just the user who is now thrust into the selling role because the seller has been arrested and is in jail.
Would you support the United States issuing a currency from the United States Treasury to compete with the other currencies that you would propose?
You would always have the dollar, but I think the point here is that government is incapable of coming up with something as complex as that. And we can just look at Medicaid and Medicare as examples of that. I can't imagine the government being able to tackle this, but if you had competing currencies, I think you would have a currency that would emerge. And it would be commodity-based and it would be sound money. It would be a strong U.S. dollar, not a weak U.S. dollar.
How do you manage that process of deregulating money essentially when other national currencies do something to deal with them, or is that
I hope I made myself clear. This is really complex, and if you go to competing currencies, that's how you weed out the wheat from the chaff. Broken education system. So, as governor of New Mexico, I was more outspoken than any governor in the country regarding school choice. I really think that you need to bring competition to public education. That's my belief. But what's the number one thing that as President of the United States I could do to improve education in this country? It would be to abolish the Federal Department of Education. And let me explain. The federal government gives each state about 11 cents out of every school dollar that every state spends, but it comes with 16 cents worth of strings attached. The federal government says, here's 11 cents, you have to do A, B, C, and D. It costs the state 16 cents to do A, B, C, and D. The Federal Department of Education, established in 1979 under Jimmy Carter, is there anything value added since 1979 when it comes to education from the Federal Department of Education? If we just gave education back to the states, 50 laboratories of innovation and best practice, and they'll actually be better off dollar-wise by not taking federal money. But if we just give it up to the states, I think we would have some fabulous success that would get emulated. I also think that we would have horrible failure that would get avoided. But if we have 50 laboratories working on best educational practices, we'll have it. As opposed to Washington knows best, Washington top down has all the answers. That's the problems that we have. What's my position on foreign policy? Non-intervention. I call for vacating our embassies right now. Why make ourselves a target in the Middle East? We've made so many. I think more and more people are understanding that we have become the symbol of everything that is wrong in the world. That if we were attacked if we were subject to military interventions by other countries, and one of our loved ones died as a result of those military interventions, we would dedicate our own lives to taking revenge against the country that did that. And this is what we've done now for decades, and it's got to stop.
Sort of going on to that question, what would you do to promote liberty in other countries if we remove presidents?
Well, what I love is this notion of we're there to protect vital American interests. Vital American interests are propping up a new dictator in lieu of the old dictator, and after a number of years, guess what? The new dictator isn't any better than the old dictator, only we've propped him up and we're aligned with the new dictator. American interests would be not to be aligned in any decisions that foreign countries should be making for themselves. Let's be the beacon on the hill. Let's adopt marriage equality. Let's end the drug war. Let's let the rest of the world look at America as liberty and freedom and a system that works to promote individuals as to how hard they're going to work, entrepreneurs, sound money.
You say that you agree with a lot of things, with Obama on a lot of things right now, right? So,
I agree with what he has to say.
Well, yeah, but he's trying to get things done, especially with when you have a lot of people in your own government working against you. A one-term presidency isn't going to be enough. First term is setting up the dominoes. The second term is knocking them all down. You're basically taking away the guy's chance. So shouldn't you save your breath for next term?
I got to tell you, I served 2 terms as governor of New Mexico, and I have the opposite experience. You can push the envelope just as far as you possibly can. The good government was easy. It started out with taking on the issues every single day and making politics non-existent in the equation.
2.0.
Issues first, politics last. No, I reject that completely. As governor of New Mexico, I took on the issues every single day. Every single day for 4 straight years. Politics be damned. Science debate 2012? No. No.
The crux of it is how we ensure that science is incorporated into the
I'll try and stay in tune with that going forward, but I don't want to.
check out science debate.
Well, it makes all the sense in the world, but I don't want to.
President Obama and Mitt Romney both responded to
And if they said, I'm sure they responded to the question.
They responded by...
I want to say I'm 42 years old. We have never had a better presidential candidate. Actually, a pretty strong activist movement in Minnesota and Florida, and I would like to know your short take on the ideas of Ayn Rand.
Well, Ayn Rand. When I read Ayn Rand, what it did for me was it just codified my own experience. It wasn't a, gee, this is going to guide me going forward. It was just her putting into words that the biggest contribution that I can make to society is to be the best that I can possibly be. By being the best that I can possibly be, that's how I positively affect other people's lives. I'm going to end this right now by saying the following. We're doing a 40 campus tour across the country. Myself, Judge Jim Gray is my vice presidential candidate. He's doing 20 colleges and universities. Me, 20 colleges and universities. Why are we targeting colleges and universities? Because you as young people are getting screwed. I'm going to retire, I'm going to have health care, but you are never going to be able to retire, you're never going to be able to quit work, and there will not be health care available to you. President Obama passes his health care plan. This is a plan that is incumbent on healthy people paying for those that aren't so healthy. That burden falls on you.
We have to look for individuals that support their ideas and our ideas and people we can get behind and hopefully make that a majority. Shrink government, give us our constitutional values back. Gary, always a pleasure seeing you, bud.
Yeah, great.
If you need anything at all, anything comes up, and I'll help you guys out as much as possible.